The cranberry sauce slipped from her fingers. It hit the china plate with a wet thud, deep red spreading across the pristine white like blood. Amber stared at it, then at me sitting at the head of my own dining table. For the first time in 3 years, I watched the color drain from her face. But I should start from the beginning. Because the thing about being pushed down your own stairs is that you have a lot of time to think on the way down. And even more time lying there on the landing, waiting to see if anyone will come. My name is Margaret Eleanor Hartwell. I'm 67 years old. I taught English literature for 42 years at Roosevelt High School. I raised my son Thomas in this house after his father died when Thomas was 12. And for the last 3 years, I've been living in what used to be my home like a stranger, like a guest who's overstayed her welcome. Thomas met Amber at a medical conference in Phoenix. She was a pharmaceutical sales rep, all bright smiles and confident handshakes. Beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall, auburn hair, one of those laughs that fills a room. Thomas had been divorced for 2 years by then, and I understood his loneliness. Lord knows I understood it. After he introduced us at that Italian restaurant on Main Street, I wanted to be happy for him. I really did. She moved in 6 months later. They married at City Hall 3 months after that. I remember the first time she called me Margaret instead of Mom. We were in the kitchen. I was showing her where I kept the good serving platters, the ones my mother-in-law had given me. "Oh, Margaret," she said, not looking up from her phone. "I think we'll just order new ones. Something more modern." Thomas was in the doorway. I waited for him to say something. He just smiled and kissed her temple. That was the first crack. You don't see it at first. It's like when you drop a plate and it doesn't break, but later you notice the hairline fracture running through it. One day it just splits in your hands. The house had been mine since 1982. James and I had bought it with money his parents left him. Every room held memories. Thomas's growth chart on the kitchen doorframe. The dent in the hallway wall where he'd crashed his bicycle indoors during a thunderstorm when he was 8. The garden where I'd planted roses the summer after James died, because I needed something to keep my hands busy. 6 months after the wedding, Amber started talking about renovations. "The house is so dated, Margaret," she said over dinner. Thomas was cutting his chicken, not meeting my eyes. "Thomas agrees we should update, increase the value." "This is my home," I said quietly. "Of course it is." Her smile was perfect. "That's why we want to make it nice for you. You've let it go for so long." Thomas looked at me then. "Mom, Amber has some great ideas. The kitchen is from the 80s. Your father redid that kitchen the year before he died." Silence. Amber reached across and squeezed Thomas's hand. "We know this is hard," she said, her voice syrupy with false sympathy. "Change is always hard for older people." I was 64, not ancient, not senile, not incapable of understanding when I was being managed. The renovations started in March. Workers arrived at 7 in the morning. Amber supervised everything. I'd come downstairs to find my mother's wallpaper torn down, my kitchen cabinets ripped out, strangers walking through rooms that used to be private. "You should really stay upstairs during the day, Margaret," Amber said. "For your safety. With all the construction." So I stayed upstairs. In the bedroom I'd shared with James for 32 years, listening to my house being dismantled. The isolation happened gradually. Tuesday book club? Amber scheduled a family dinner that couldn't be moved. My garden club meetings? The construction crew needed to dig up the backyard that day. Wasn't I needed to supervise? My sister Carol calling from Ohio? Amber was so sorry, but Margaret was resting. Perhaps Carol should call back later. Later never came. "You're doing too much, Margaret," Amber would say, her hand on my shoulder feeling less like comfort and more like weight. "At your age, you should slow down. Let us take care of things." Thomas nodded along. My son, who I'd raised to question, to think, to stand up for what was right, nodded like one of those bobblehead dolls. The financial stuff started small. My credit card declined at the grocery store. I came home flustered, embarrassed. Amber was sympathetic. "Oh, Margaret, you must have forgotten to pay the bill again." She sighed like I was a child who'd made a mess. "Don't worry, I've set up automatic payments for you. Thomas and I think it's better if we manage the household accounts, just to make sure nothing gets missed." I wanted to argue, but I was tired. The renovations had been going on for months. I couldn't sleep through the noise. I couldn't think straight. And maybe she was right. Maybe I had forgotten. Except I hadn't. I'd always been meticulous with money. 42 years of managing a teacher's salary had taught me that. I found the bank statements 2 weeks later, stuffed in the back of a drawer in the guest room where Amber had her home office. My accounts, in my name, but I didn't recognize the transactions. The mortgage on my paid-off house. The home equity line of credit I'd never applied for. The transfers to an account I'd never opened. When I confronted her, we were alone in the kitchen. The new kitchen, all white marble and stainless steel, nothing like the warm oak and blue tile James had chosen. "You're confused, Margaret," Amber said, not even looking up from her laptop. "Thomas and I are handling the renovation costs. It's our investment in the property." "This is my property." She did look up then. Her eyes were cold. "Is it?" "Because the way I understand it, at your age, with your memory issues, maybe it's time to consider other arrangements. There are some very nice assisted living facilities. I don't have memory issues. Don't you?" She tilted her head. "You forgot about our dinner party last week. You wandered outside in your nightgown at 2 a.m. Thomas had to go find you. I'd gone out to check on my roses. In my robe, not nightgown. At 11 p.m., not 2 a.m. But when I tried to say this, the words tangled. "We're just worried about you," Amber continued. "Thomas is worried. He thinks maybe you're not safe here alone." "I'm not alone. You're here." "Exactly." She smiled. "And we'll take such good care of you." The first time she pushed me was in July. We were in the hallway upstairs. I'd asked, politely, if I could have the guest room back. I had things in there, photos and yearbooks I wanted to look through. She was blocking the door. "This is my office now, Margaret. It's my house." "Is it though?" Her voice was soft. "Dangerous. The mortgage is in Thomas's name now. The refinance you signed. I never signed any refinance." "You did. You just don't remember." She stepped closer. "That's the problem with old people. They don't remember, and then they make accusations." "I'm not accusing, I'm asking." She shoved me, not hard, just enough to make me stumble backward. My hip hit the hall table. The crystal vase James had given me for our 20th anniversary teetered. I caught it before it fell. "Oh my God, Margaret." Amber's voice was loud now, carrying down the stairs. "You're so unsteady." "Thomas! Thomas, come quick!" He came running, found me holding the table, Amber looking concerned. "She nearly fell," Amber said. I barely caught her in time. "I think we need to seriously consider other options. This house isn't safe for her." Thomas looked at me. I wanted to tell him. But Amber's hand was on his arm, and his eyes were worried but not questioning, never questioning. "Maybe we should look at some places, Mom," he said gently, "just to see." I stopped arguing after that, because I realized something. If I fought openly, I'd lose. Thomas believed her. The bank believed her. Everyone would believe the concerned daughter-in-law over the forgetful old woman. So I stopped fighting. And I started watching. I watched Amber on her phone, texting constantly. I watched her schedule Thomas's days, his social life, his business calls. I watched how she steered conversations, how she positioned herself between me and my son at every opportunity, how she answered questions directed at me, how she spoke about me like I wasn't there. "Margaret's having a hard day," she'd tell the contractor. "Best not to ask her about decisions." "She's not herself," she'd murmur to Thomas. "I'm worried about her." The second push happened in September. I'd made dinner, pot roast, Thomas's favorite from childhood. I'd gotten up early, gone to the store before Amber woke up, cooked all afternoon. I set the table in the dining room with my good china. I wanted one evening that felt like home. Amber came down at 6, saw the table, and her face went hard. "What is this?" "I made dinner." "We had plans, Margaret. Thomas and I are going out." He didn't tell me. "Because you forget." She walked to the table, picked up one of the china plates, my grandmother's china. "This is so depressing, like eating in a museum." She turned toward the sink. I don't know if she meant to drop it or if it slipped, but it shattered against the tile floor. Blue and white shards everywhere. I bent down to pick them up. She was right behind me. "Let me help," she said. But when I straightened up, her hand was between my shoulder blades, and she pushed. I went down the 3 steps from the kitchen to the mudroom hard. My knee hit the floor first, then my hands. Pain shot up my leg. "Oh no!" Amber's voice, shocked. "Thomas! Thomas, your mother fell!" He helped me up, drove me to urgent care. Sprained knee, bruised wrists. The doctor asked if I felt safe at home. "She's fine," Amber answered before I could speak. "Just unsteady. We're looking at care facilities." In the car, Thomas was quiet. Then, "Mom, maybe Amber's right. Maybe this house is too much for you." I looked out the window at the streets I'd known for 43 years. "Maybe," I said, because I'd made my decision. I started calling in October. First, my lawyer, David Morrison, who'd handled James's estate. Then, my bank. Then, my sister Carol. Then, someone I never thought I'd need. Sarah Chen from Adult Protective Services, who'd spoken at a community meeting I'd attended years ago. "Tell me everything," Sarah said. So I did. "I need you to document," she said. "Photos, recordings if you can, times, dates. Can you do that?" I could. I'd been an English teacher. Documentation was something I understood. I started carrying my phone everywhere. I took photos of the bank statements. I recorded conversations. I wrote everything down in a notebook I hid in my closet behind the box of James's sweaters I couldn't give away. The pattern was clear once you saw it. Amber's temper was worse when Thomas was gone, when it was just us. She'd gotten comfortable, confident. "You know no one will believe you," she said one afternoon in late October. We were in the kitchen. She was drinking wine, her third glass. "Everyone thinks you're senile, even Thomas." "I'm not senile. Doesn't matter what you are. It matters what people think you are." She leaned against the counter. "And they think you're a confused old woman who can't take care of herself, who needs to be somewhere safe, somewhere we can sell this house and get what we're owed." "Owed? For putting up with you." She smiled. "Do you know how exhausting you are? How much work it is to manage you?" My phone was in my cardigan pocket, recording. "I never asked you to manage me. You never had to ask. You're incompetent. That's what the doctor will say when we have you assessed." She finished her wine. Thomas already agreed. "Next month. Cognitive assessment. When it shows what we know it'll show, we get power of attorney. Then you go somewhere quiet, and we finally have our lives back. Why do you hate me?" She laughed. "I don't hate you, Margaret. I just need you gone." November arrived cold and gray. Thomas mentioned Thanksgiving. Amber wanted to host, have her family come. My family wasn't invited. "It's too much for you, Mom," Thomas said. "Hosting. All that cooking. I'd hosted Thanksgiving in this house for 43 years. "Of course," I said. "Whatever you think is best." I called Sarah that evening. "I have enough," I told her. "Are you sure you want to do this? It'll be hard. He's your son." "I know." My voice cracked. "But he's not seeing what's happening, and if I don't stop this now, I'll lose everything, including him." We made the plan for Thanksgiving. It seemed fitting. A day about family, about gratitude, about gathering. The morning of, I got up at 5. I cooked turkey, stuffing, green bean casserole, sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, 3 pies, the food I'd made every year since Thomas was born. Amber had forbidden me from the kitchen the night before, but she was still asleep. Thomas was still asleep. The house was quiet, and mine for a few hours. I set the table. My grandmother's china, what was left of it, the good silver, candles, the embroidered tablecloth my mother made, every piece a memory, every plate a year, every fork a Thanksgiving past. Amber came down at 10, saw the table, the food. "What the hell is this?" "Thanksgiving dinner. I told you we were ordering catering." Her voice was rising. "I told you. I wanted to cook." "You wanted," she stopped. Laughed. "You're unbelievable. Thomas, Thomas, get down here." He came down the stairs, half asleep, confused. "Your mother cooked." After we specifically said, "I thought it would be nice," I said quietly. "For family." Amber looked at me like I was an insect. "My family is coming at 2. I need this cleaned up. All of it. Thomas, tell her." He looked between us, tired, caught in the middle like he'd been for 3 years. "Mom, maybe." The doorbell rang. We all froze. "Who the hell is that?" Amber demanded. I invited some people, I said. I walked to the door, my knee still aching from the fall. Opened it. Sarah Chen was there, in a business suit, professional. Behind her, David Morrison, my lawyer. Behind him, Carol, my sister, who'd driven through the night from Ohio. And behind her, Officer Patricia Williams from the County Sheriff's Department. "Hello, Margaret," Sarah said quietly. "May we come in?" I stood aside. They filed into my dining room, into the Thanksgiving I'd prepared. Amber's face went white, then red. "What is this?" She looked at Thomas. "Who are these people?" "This is Sarah Chen from Adult Protective Services," I said. My voice was steady now, strong. "This is my lawyer, David Morrison. My sister, Carol. And Officer Williams." "Thomas, do something!" Amber hissed. But Thomas was staring at Carol. "Aunt Carol? What's going on?" Carol hugged him, then held him at arm's length. "When's the last time we talked, honey? Really talked?" Mom said you've been busy. "I've been calling for 6 months. I've left messages. Sent emails." She looked at Amber, none of which were passed on. Sarah opened her briefcase, pulled out a folder, set it on the dining table. "Mrs. Hartwell, the younger Mrs. Hartwell, I need to speak with you about some concerns regarding elder abuse and financial exploitation." "This is insane." Amber's laugh was sharp. Margaret is confused. "She's recorded," I said quietly. I recorded everything. I took out my phone, played the conversation from October. Amber's voice, clear and cold. "You're incompetent. That's what the doctor will say. We get power of attorney. Then you go somewhere quiet." The silence in the room was complete. Thomas's face was ashen. "Amber?" She edited that. She manipulated. David Morrison opened his own folder. "These are the bank records showing unauthorized access to Mrs. Hartwell's accounts, the mortgage fraudulently taken out against her property, the power of attorney documents with forged signatures. I have photos of the bruises from when you pushed me down the stairs," I added. "Medical records from the urgent care visit, a statement from the doctor who asked if I felt safe at home." Amber looked at Thomas. "Baby, you know she's confused. You know I would never." "The recordings are quite clear, Mrs. Hartwell," Officer Williams said. "We'd like you to come to the station to answer some questions." "I'm not going anywhere." Amber's voice was shaking now. "This is my house." "Actually," David Morrison said, "it's not. It never was. The fraudulent mortgage is void. The forged documents are void. The house belongs to Margaret Eleanor Hartwell, as it has since 1982. Thomas sat down heavily in one of the dining room chairs, put his head in his hands. "Thomas?" Amber's voice was different now, smaller. "Thomas, you can't believe this. I love you. I love your mother. I've been taking care of her." "Taking care of her?" Carol's voice cut through. "You've been isolating her, stealing from her, abusing her." "I want to speak to my lawyer," Amber said finally. Officer Williams nodded. "That's your right. Let's go." They left. Just like that, the door closed behind them. The cranberry sauce was still on the china plate where Amber had dropped it when she saw who was at the door. Thomas looked up at me. His eyes were red. "Mom." I sat down across from him. Carol sat beside me, her hand on mine. Sarah and David stood by the door, giving us space but not leaving. "How long?" Thomas whispered. 3 years. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried. You didn't hear me." My voice was gentle. "She was very good at making sure you didn't hear me. I should have seen it. I should have," he stopped. "I let her do this to you, to us. She was very convincing, honey. These people, they know how to manipulate, how to isolate, how to make you think you're the problem." Carol squeezed my hand. "The important thing is it's over now." "Is it?" Thomas looked around the dining room. "At the Thanksgiving feast, at the empty chair where Amber should have been, what happens now?" Sarah stepped forward. "Now we investigate, gather evidence, build a case. Your mother has documented extensively, which helps. The recordings, the bank records, the medical reports. Will she go to jail?" Thomas asked. "That's for the courts to decide," Officer Williams said. "But elder abuse and financial exploitation are serious crimes. The DA will look at everything." Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'm so sorry, Mom. I know. I should have listened. Should have seen. You loved her. That's not a crime. I chose her over you. You were manipulated too, Thomas. These people, they're very good at what they do. They find vulnerabilities, they exploit them. I reached across the table, took his hand. You lost your first wife. You were lonely. She saw that. Used it. Carol stood. I'm going to make coffee. And then we're going to eat this beautiful Thanksgiving dinner your mother made. And we're going to be grateful we're together again. We did. The 5 of us sat at that table. Thomas and I and Carol. Sarah and David stayed too, at my invitation. We ate turkey and stuffing. We passed the cranberry sauce that Amber had dropped, scraped off the plate, still perfect underneath. We didn't talk about Amber. Not then. There would be time for that, for lawyers and statements and court dates, for Thomas's guilt and my anger and the long process of healing. Instead, we talked about James, about the Thanksgivings he'd carved the turkey, making a ceremony of it, about the year Thomas was 7 and ate so much pumpkin pie he was sick. About the Thanksgiving James and I had hosted 3 months before he died, 50 people crammed into this house, standing room only. He loved this house, Carol said. He'd be so glad you fought for it. I looked around the dining room. At the scuff marks on the floor where Thomas had pushed his bike, at the water stain on the ceiling from when the upstairs bathroom had leaked in 1995, at the crack in the plaster we'd never gotten fixed because James said it gave the room character. I'm too old to start over somewhere else, I said. This is my home. My life is here. Thomas was crying quietly. I almost let her take it from you. I almost. But you didn't. We didn't. I squeezed his hand. That's what matters. After dinner, after Carol and Sarah and David had left, after Officer Williams had given me her card and told me someone would be in touch, Thomas and I sat in the living room. The house was quiet except for the old radiator clanking the way it had for 40 years. Can I stay tonight? Thomas asked. I can't. I can't go back to our apartment. To her apartment. To wherever we were living. This is your home too, honey. Always has been. He slept in his old room. I'd kept it the same. Amber had wanted to turn it into a home gym. I lay in my bed, in my room, in my house, and listened to the familiar sounds. The oak tree scratching at the window, the neighbor's dog barking, the creak of the floorboards when Thomas got up for water. Home. The legal process took months. Amber was charged with elder abuse, financial exploitation, and fraud. She pleaded guilty to reduce charges. 2 years, probation, restitution, restraining order. Thomas divorced her. She moved to Arizona, back where he'd met her. I sometimes wonder if there's another lonely man there, another mother-in-law she's targeting. But that's not my story to tell. Thomas and I went to therapy. Together and separate. We talked about guilt and manipulation and how to rebuild trust. It was hard, harder than the legal stuff, because we had to face how far we'd drifted, how much time we'd lost. But we did it. Slowly, carefully, like replanting a garden that's been torn up. He moved back into his old room for 6 months while he got back on his feet. Then he got his own place, a condo downtown. We have dinner every Sunday, sometimes here, sometimes there. We don't talk about Amber much. When we do, it's matter of fact. She was a chapter, a painful one, but closed now. I still live in this house. I've repainted some rooms, taking them back to how James and I had them. I've replanted the garden. Carol visits every few months. My book club still meets every Tuesday. My garden club every Thursday. The house is mine again. My life is mine again. Last Thanksgiving, Thomas brought his new girlfriend to dinner. Her name is Rachel. She's a teacher too, high school chemistry. When I showed her the china cabinet, she asked about every piece, the history, the stories. She called me Mrs. Hartwell until I told her to call me Margaret. She still sometimes calls me Mrs. Hartwell anyway, out of respect. We set the table together, the 3 of us. Rachel asked if she could help cook. Thomas carved the turkey, the way his father used to. We said grace, something we hadn't done in years. And when Rachel raised her glass for a toast, she said, to family, to home, to second chances. Thomas looked at me. I looked at him. To second chances, we said together. Because that's the thing about family. Real family. Not the kind that manipulates and isolates and abuses, but the kind that's built on love and respect and truth. That kind of family can survive almost anything. Even when it's been broken, it can be repaired. It takes time. It takes work. It takes both people willing to do the hard things, but it can be done. I'm 67 years old. I taught English literature for 42 years. I've lived in this house since 1982. I've survived loss and manipulation and abuse. I've fought for my home and my son and my life. And I won. Not because I was strong, not because I was brave, but because I refused to let someone else write the ending to my story. This is my house, my life, my story. And I'm not done telling it yet.